Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tony Sports Games for another episode of our Dynasty playthrough series with the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns on the road to glory. This should be episode 8, and we're getting close to Christmas. Very exciting. Very exciting. This is a very exciting time of our season. Of course, we're going into season 1. As always, this is Draft Day Sports College Football 2026. And there's always a lot to do before week 1. We have to go through and set our depth charts up, talk strategy, game plans. Of course, we have to set up recruiting. Very important. So there's always a lot to do before week 1. A couple things. I know a couple videos ago I was talking about my upload schedule and said these videos would be uploaded at 6 p.m. on Fridays. Obviously, it's 6 a.m. Eastern. I don't know why I said p.m. Maybe I hadn't had coffee that morning. But anyway, so yeah, we've got a lot to get into. Very excited to do so. See, we're on the league homepage here. We've got some blurbs from Peter Younger and John Justice from camp. A couple of our players that did really well in training camp. It's funny, Peter Younger, it says living up to his 5-star recruiting ranking. He was not a 5-star. I know that. I would remember that. He was ranked outside the top 1,500. So I don't know if that's a weird bug or maybe he has extremely high potential and it's reading it that way. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into strategy. We're going to evaluate our roster, talk through what our depth charts are going to look like, what we think our offense and defense can do well, where we might struggle, and try to get a plan together for the season. So let's talk strategy, starting right now. Okay, so the way I want to do this episode, as far as the depth charts go, one of the things I'm going to try to do moving forward here is to try to get better at making the videos a little shorter without losing out on good information. So we'll work on that as we go along. One of the things that may help is instead of going through the depth chart line by line and watching me click and fill all the spots in, what I've decided to do here is let's talk roster evaluation and talk strategy and schematics from an overall perspective, and then we'll come back after I set up the depth charts, probably offline, and show how they fill in. But it will be filled in kind of according to our discussion here that we're about to start. And then also a couple things. I know I misspoke in an earlier episode last season when we were recruiting. I think Levy has it. Yeah. So when I was talking about this social type, the first word here, dazzling, I mistakenly said that means high potential. Gifted is the one that means high potential. Dazzling, the definition of that, or the possible definitions of that, are social, confident, and extrovert. So misspoke there. It's a great social type to have. I mean, all those social, confident, extrovert, those are all positive things in my eyes. So just wanted to correct myself there. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk roster. I've given this some thought. I've looked over a lot of things with this team. So let's do the offense first. And I'm going to look through each position grouping here and kind of basically read, but talk about the notes I have down here. So at quarterback and a lot of positions on this team, we're going to have a lot of freshmen playing very important roles on our team this year. So we're going to see what some of these guys can do. As far as quarterback goes, I do think our main starting quarterback is going to be our freshman from Puerto Rico, Greg Enriquez. He has a decent arm, really good, nice intelligence, and pretty solid accuracy. He has pretty good intangibles. He has a nice social type. He does not have a lot of cohesion yet. I'm still working through what this cohesion means because you can see some guys start out, obviously we haven't played any games yet, but some guys have higher lists than others. And of course, all of these quarterbacks have pretty decent social types. I'm starting to wonder if intangibles translates to how many players you have cohesion with. I think the strength of the cohesion, I don't know if it develops, strengthens over time, or if it's just you either have it or don't. We're going to keep trying to figure it out as we go along. When we get into the depth charts, if there are close calls in some positions, like between two players that are very, very similar, I'm going to look at cohesion as kind of a tiebreaker. Now, the way cohesion works is Richard Edwards gets a slight bonus if these players are on the field with him. So he doesn't give a bonus to these players, it's the other way around. He plays a little bit better with these guys on the field. So what I would do is, if it's a close position battle, I would look at like my quarterback or our starting running back and maybe get, if they have a player that they get cohesion from, we'll give the nod there. I think if you try to go through your rosters and set them up, so if you try to set up every single player with the most cohesion possible, I think it's going to be a pretty impossible task. But if you focus on a few key players on each side of the ball, and maybe you make one or two different start-sit decisions based on cohesion, I think that's kind of the way we're going to try to go with it. But anyway, quarterback-wise, Greg Enriquez will be our starting quarterback. I think he has some good potential. He may be a little bit better at short, medium throws as opposed to deep, but we're going to give him the nod there. As far as running, we saw from the spring game, Richard Edwards had a very nice spring game performance rushing the ball. He was our only rusher, really, that did anything. He had 6 carries for 61 yards. He is a lot better than I thought based on the coach grades. The coach grades were around like 10, 11 or so, which for a quarterback, they based most of that on his throwing. But even his throwing, 74 arm is borderline decent. 82 accuracy is pretty good. His intelligence could use some work, but if the intelligence creeps up during his career into the low to mid 70s, if he gets a couple more points here, he could actually be a pretty decent thrower too. So if Enriquez really, really underperforms, maybe Edwards will pass the ball too. But in any case, he's a great runner. He's very athletic. So I think QB runs is going to be definitely part of the offense. At running back, we have a couple freshmen at the top of the depth chart again here. Our scat back, Eugene Levy, is the first guy here. Extremely fast, straight line, extremely good hands for a running back. And you know what? He's 6'3" and has great competitiveness. So I think this guy would probably make a pretty darn good wide receiver. Now, we need him at running back this year, I think. But we may still look to recruit another running back or two. And maybe in the future, if we can get that done, it's not out of the question this guy could become a receiver at some point in his career. Bad agility is the big knock on him. I see him being able to hit some really explosive plays with his speed, maybe some home run plays, especially if things are blocked well. If our offensive line run blocks well and he has clean openings, he's going to be gone if you don't get a hand on him early. But if we struggle to open up holes, he has decent strength for a running back, but with this agility rating, he might not be great at avoiding tackles close to the line of scrimmage. So he could be kind of a feast or famine runner. We will see. The other freshman we brought in that's probably going to play quite a bit is this William Elliott. And, he may be better at avoiding tackles because he has better strength and pretty good agility. Obviously not great straight line speed. He has really nice intangibles as well. Both Levy and Elliott are very good pass blockers for running backs, especially Levy here. 42 is pretty good. Anything over 40 is pretty good for a running back. And obviously he has great hands too. So, we could have some formations passing where we have the running back go out for some passes, but I think the running backs pass blocking are going to be good, especially if the offensive line we think might be iffy pass blocking. Both these guys may be helpful there, so that's nice to see. At fullback, um, Clinton is the better run blocker and all-around player. David is a better pass blocker. I don't know if we're going to use the fullback a lot in passing, but if we do, David will be in there. But Clinton is a pretty nice player, actually. I probably overlooked him a little last year because the coach playbook we were using didn't have a lot of fullback in it, fullback runs and things like that. But he has really nice strength, not terrible agility for fullback, nice speed, nice hands, pretty good run blocking. He can probably run the ball a little bit, and he can definitely run block. So I think power running is going to be something the door is really open for. At tight end, you have Felder and Norman are two converted receivers who may be great pass catching tight ends. They have excellent agility and hands. Neither of them has very good speed. So red zone targets, yes, definitely. Hopefully dependable at the catch point guys, in the short area, yes, hopefully. So I think the door is open for two tight end passing. Now, run blocking, we don't have great blocking tight ends. Our best run blocker is Dutton, and he just has kind of middling strength and not much athleticism, so not much there. I definitely don't see a lot of two tight end running in our future. Probably one at the most, but that's kind of the tight end position. At wide receiver, we have two freshmen again at the top of the heap here in Deloach and Justice. Obviously, Deloach was the higher ranked out of the two at 335. Nice intangibles. He's 6 foot tall, not huge, but decent size. Not very agile. Decent hands, pretty good straight line speed. So definitely seems like an outside, downfield type of receiver. Now, John Justice wasn't as good as him at signing day, but he had an excellent camp. And he looks to be pretty versatile. He has pretty good agility, decent speed, pretty good hands. He can probably play inside or outside, so that's nice to see. As far as the rest of the position goes, you've got Kimbrel here, who's more of a burner, 93 speed, decent hands, not very good agility. So definitely an outside downfield type weapon. Doesn't have the best intangibles, but we'll see. He's not very big either. He'll probably start the season on the outside quite a bit. If he falters, actually McLean is kind of a downfield guy too, with 87 speed, 70 hands, not very good agility. McLean, decent size, better competitiveness, better intangibles in general. Also, even though he didn't play much last year, you see, he did average 21 yards a catch, and he had a nice spring game. So Kimbrel may start on the outside, opposite of perhaps Deloach, but McLean probably could get some snaps, especially if Kimbrel is not very reliable. And then Cook, doesn't have very good speed, but he has pretty good agility and excellent hands, and he's pretty good sized. So we've got, I think, like kind of two deep outside, two deep in the slot. Corral and Thacker, I mean, there's not really much here. Corral, I mean, Corral's athletic, 80 agility, 81 speed, just not very good hands. So we've got a few options there. I think the wide receiver room as a whole, I don't know. I think we've got a couple guys with the agility to be good in the short area, but a couple guys that are more downfield guys. So we'll see how that works, because I think our quarterback probably would be a little better at throwing short, but we've got, I think, 2 or 3 wide receiver sets. Definitely could be good for passing. Offensive line. This is to spare you the details. At guard, I really like where we're at with run blocking. We've got 5 really solid options here. A couple of them with really good strength. A couple maulers inside. Neither is very agile, which is unfortunate, and then we've got a couple guys that are a little more agile but have no strength at all. But pretty good. We got a lot of run blocking options. Pass blocking is a little bit more iffy. We've got Mayberry and Becker with good pass blocking ratings. Let me zoom in a little so you guys can see a little better as we go through here. But not much strength. Guard is definitely a concern with pass blocking. Tackles, I also think we have some good run block options. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 nice run blocking options. With pretty good speed. A couple of them have decent agility. Pretty good. Feel pretty good about that. Pass blocking, we've got, McNeil doesn't have much agility, but we've got a couple guys here with decent strength and agility and decent at least pass block. So I think we're okay at tackle. And then center, let's see, let me look at center. Okay run blocking, but slow. Bradshaw, rock solid pass blocker. So, yeah, okay run blocking with Ramirez, good strength, good run blocking, very poor agility, not much speed. So I don't know that we're going to be running sweeps. Sweeps are plays where the center pulls on run plays. They're outside runs where the center pulls, and you need some speed on your center for them to get a hand on anybody. So might not be the team for that. But inside running, Ramirez should be pretty good. The agility is a bit concerning, but it is what it is. Pass blocking, of course, we have a couple guys that we have Andrews, who we switched from guard, but Andrews is the guy that gave up 9 sacks in 3 games at guard last year, so we hope he doesn't have to play. Bradshaw looks good. 80 strength. Not great agility, but not terrible, and solid pass block. So I feel good about that. So our offense overall, I think the QB run game looks good. Also, Foles is going to be our backup running quarterback. Has pretty decent athleticism too. So even if Edwards gets hurt, we can probably run the quarterback a little bit. Running game, we may be better at inside runs, at power runs. We have a good fullback. We don't have very good run blocking tight ends, so I think power inside running might be better than outside. Of course, if we can manage to get the outside runs blocked, Levy could have some huge plays. So we'll include a mix, but we may be a better inside running team than outside. And then, if our run blocking is not quite as good as I think, it is possible Levy could turn into a little bit of a boom or bust guy. Elliott may prove to be the more steady of the 2 backs because he has better strength and agility. But options. 2 tight end formations running out. Not interested. 2 tight end passing formations interested, especially in the red zone. Maybe we'll have a red zone playbook. Power running looks good. No RPOs. Don't see any quarterback. I don't have the team for RPOs. RPOs can work in this game, but you can't just throw them in any old team and have them work well. You really need very specific things that we do not have on this team. Shark has a great video on RPOs, so not interested there. Passing game will probably include some mix of depths at the beginning. Deep passing, we have the receivers for it. Don't know if we have the quarterback for it. So, we'll see. Pass blocking might be iffy, especially at guard. May need to keep the backs in to block more on passing, even though Levy could be a really nice receiving back. So I kind of want to get him out for some passes, but if we are giving up a ton of sacks, we may have to adjust that. So that's how I feel about the offense. Now, moving to defense. Let's talk about this defense that I have in mind for this season. So, as I mentioned, we're going to play mostly 3-3-5. I have a specific system I want to try to run, a specific scheme. And here's basically how it works. The idea for this is based on 2 things. Number one is deconstructing the blocking situational guide, where it mentions weight as something that impacts successful blocking for offensive linemen. And if you take that and flip it on its head, to me, that says that having heavier defensive linemen, even on the ends, heavy defensive ends, could help to prevent offensive linemen getting successful blocks off. That's more theoretical. Okay, I haven't really tested. I mean, I've tried this in other playthroughs, but so my kind of hypothesis, I guess, or the question we're going to try to answer is, can a defensive end who is, let's find one of the big guys, like here, Greer. Well, he's very strong too. Where's our other big one? Was it Farrell? Yeah, 301. So 64 strength. He's really a little bit light, but could let's say a 300-pound defensive end, or 280, a converted defensive tackle basically, or offensive lineman, with, let's say, 75 strength, actually play stronger than a 250 defensive end with 82, 83 strength? Will they be better at soaking up blocks? Now, that's kind of, especially in the base form of the defense, that's our question. The other thing this is based on is, as I mentioned, kind of the zone coverage and having zone corners. And that's not theoretical. It is based on a player that I had on my SMU team in the SNCFL, our online league. His name was Ahmad Keenan. He was he was only 5'9". I would prefer bigger corners for this, but he was only 5'9". But he was an 89 overall player. Let me look at the corners while I talk about him, so you guys can just compare what we have now to the prototype I'm talking about. He was an 89 overall player by his senior year, and I only coached him for 1 year because I took over the team last year. But he had 56 strength, 82 agility, 62 intelligence, 61 tackling, 83 speed, and 57 hands. And then he was loaded with intangibles. He was pretty much 90 plus in almost every intangible. His work ethic, his competitiveness, he was way up here. So now this is a player who, in his career, forced 12 fumbles, which is a lot for a corner, for his senior season. He only had 7 picks in his career, and he allowed a higher than ideal catch rate. He wasn't a great man-to-man cover, but you wouldn't expect him to be. But he still defensed 68 passes in his career. He had very few missed tackles. He had 207 career tackles, only 23 missed tackles in 4 years. So the idea here with the cornerback position is to recruit corners with tackling and intelligence and intangibles. And then, you're kind of offering, or I guess scout those ones. And then you're kind of offering the ones that maybe also have size and agility, or size and strength, or agility and strength. Those athletic and physique, the general grades. And hopefully have a team or a squad of corners that can they're strong for corners. They're good tacklers for corners. They're smart. And then you just play zone. And while you may not get as many picks, you should be very sure at tackling, and they can force fumbles, so you can still force turnovers another way. That's what this is based on. Now, in my head, for this to work, what we need is big, strong defensive linemen. I don't really care about their position skill, so that's why I'm okay to convert. At least at this point, I don't. I guess I should say. Like converting strong offensive linemen, or converting a defensive tackle with a little more athleticism to defensive end is kind of the idea I want to try here. If this works, I think the defensive line will soak up blocks. It should free up the linebackers to make a ton of tackles. And we need versatile linebackers with this, as I mentioned before, because we need linebackers that are great tacklers to pick up the slack from a D-line that's more physically trait focused. And we also need linebackers that are fast, because we're going to lack probably a little speed at the cornerback position. And then, on the back end, I don't know. I'm trying to really theory craft this, because the safeties on one hand, to commit to this system, wouldn't we want safeties that are also smart, good tacklers, agile, that fit the coverages we're going to play? I think yes, but on the other hand, making sure we have speed, especially at free safety, a back end eraser, so we don't give up a ton of long pass touchdowns. It'd be something we'd look for too. So I think this stresses the linebacker and safety position to be versatile, fast and good tacklers. But the idea with the defense as a whole is everyone can tackle, everyone's smart. Or most. I mean, the back 7 or 8 players, and now we do have to play at least 2 formations. We can't only play 3-3-5. Well, I could, but I don't think it'd be very good, because the tools the game gives us for personnel packages, I can use one within the same formation. So 3-3-5, I can use one package for 1 to 4 yards to go, or 1 to 5 yards to go, and I can use one package for 5+ or 6+, whatever. The issue with that is obviously 1st and 10 is a base defense down, not an obvious passing down, but 3rd and 10 is an obvious passing down, and I have to commit to one package or the other. So I think we have to play at least 2 formations. So what we'll probably do is we'll play 3-3-5 as our base defense with our big people in, and then on obvious passing downs we'll play nickel. It's almost the same personnel package, the only difference being we'll have 2 defensive tackles and 2 linebackers instead of 1 defensive tackle and 2 linebackers. So I think we can make it work and stay mostly true to the scheme I have in mind. But that is the plan. If this works, I expect it to be really good against the run, especially on early downs. I would expect our linebackers to be our leading tacklers most years, freed up by the defensive line to run free and make tackles. I would expect us to be close to the top of at least the conference, if not the country, in forced fumbles once we get the type of corners we want. And everyone but the D-line tackles, so low missed tackle numbers is what I'm expecting. Now, signs that it's not going well, I would say if we're just average to below average against the run, that'd be a really bad sign. If our safeties are always the leading tacklers because they're just throwing on our corners and they're not fast enough to guard people. If we have low numbers of total turnovers forced, because I'm expecting we could be a little lower in interceptions because we might not have super high-end athletes at corner. But if we're not forcing fumbles either, then that tells me this doesn't really work. And if we're just terrible against the pass, that would be a bad sign too. Now, as far as our defensive personnel goes, I'll just read through each of these position groupings here, and then we'll move on. So Sturgis was a huge get for us. We got him in the portal. He transferred from LSU. Thank you, LSU. We're going to be using him against you soon. This was a big deal because to make this work, you need a big, strong nose tackle. He doesn't have the trait nose tackle, but he can do it. He's 315 pounds, 92 strength. This was a big, big get for us. It's going to help us out a lot. If we hadn't have gotten him, we'd have a tough time installing this system this year. But so yeah, we have that. We also have Grissom and Baldwin with pretty good strength as well, pretty good size. These two are not good tacklers for whatever that's worth, but that's not the most important thing here. So I think we can make the nose tackle work. Then in dime, as far as pass rush, we don't really have a lot. Sturgis can pass rush also. He's just a really good overall player. So he can play both. I guess Baldwin would be the next guy. He's very fast. He has not very good, but not terrible agility. Not a lot after that for when we're in nickel. So injuries to either one of those guys is going to be an issue. But Defensive ends. I wrote down Greer. Out of the two guys we converted, Greer is big and strong. Farrell is big and weak. So Greer is our converted guard. He's actually better as a defensive end than as a guard, so that's great. Farrell is the defensive tackle we converted, and he's really weak, so I don't think his weight is going to make up for 64 strength. But Galarza and Davis and Styles are pretty strong. Styles is not really very good. All of those guys are like 250 pounds or less. And then pass rush, we have one guy that I think is going to be a really good pass rusher, and it's our freshman Peter Younger. He's got 70 strength, not very agile, but 79 speed. We don't have a lot else in pass rush, so we still need to add another speed rusher for passing downs, but that's what we have there. Linebackers, we have good tacklers, we have speed. We probably have 5 deep that we feel good about, so we'll have to go through when we do depth charts and decide who's where. Paul Cox will be our middle linebacker because I promised him, but we have some guys there that can play this type of a system. At corner, we really are lacking what we need to make this system work long term. We don't have a lot of guys with much strength. We have a couple guys that are decent tacklers. 4 guys that are just pretty bad tacklers. So it's not the corner room that I want long term, but I think we can make it through. We may have to play some mixed coverages this year, but we'll make it work. We have a couple guys with pretty good speed, and then we have our 5-star turned 3-star Herman Paul that, long term, if we do get the types of corners I want for this, maybe he could be a free safety. He's going to have to get fast again, but I don't know if he can do it or not. Strong safety. We have Johnson, another freshman, Lewis Johnson, our 1-star strong safety, quite a player, if I do say so myself, who is a really good overall player, not a great tackler for a free safety, but so I don't know if he's the exact prototype we want for this system long term, but I mean, he's a good, decent player. And even these 2 guys, Lovett and Zeller, not bad, not bad there. And then free safety as well, pretty solid. The nickel, our starting nickel will likely be either Carico or one of the other 2 safeties. Longo has better top-end speed. Maybe Carico could play free safety in the base defense, but probably Longo nickel because he's faster. All these guys will be in the mix to get some playing time. So, my overall thoughts, we may need to mix up some coverages, not play purely zone because I don't know if we have the corners for it, but we need to keep building the back end of the defense with the types of players we need. So recruiting will be important again this year to fit this scheme. We definitely need to add another speed rusher on the other side of Peter Younger. I think he's going to have a really nice freshman season and career. We'll try playing 3-3-5 and nickel. And if we're really struggling, 3-4 could be a possibility because I've got about 5 linebackers I feel good about. So if the 3-3-5 isn't getting the job done, we could pivot, but that's how I feel about the roster. So I guess before we go, I'll just review kind of my thoughts recruiting-wise before we build that. Our highest player with interest to start the year, 651. So that's our highest rank that starts the year with some interest. We got the same email I think that we got last year where we can't have high hopes, but if you can bring in some upside players. So they don't give us a rank that they think we can get to. This basically means 3 stars are about as good as we can get. So 651 is the highest player starting with interest at the beginning of the season here. If you look at our recruiting class last year, which we have the same amount of prestige we had last year, Deloach, the receiver, Deloach was our highest commit last year. He was 335, so he was a high 3-star. but he did start the year with interest in us, to be fair. Edwards also was in the 300s, our dual threat quarterback, but he started the year with interest also. I don't know if we would have got him just pulling him, but we had 5 players last year inside the top 620. 500-ish might be our ceiling. I might reach a little bit above that for players in our own backyard here, especially in the state of Louisiana. We've got a lot of guys in this high to mid 3-star range close by. So if we see some of them we really like, we may at least try to recruit them. Now we only have $3.4 million to spend, so we can't waste a lot of money on guys that we have no hope of getting. We have to be smart, but I think we can pick our spots and reach a little bit above, around the 500 range for the right guys. We did get Deloach over Florida and Tulane last year, so some mid to higher 3-stars may be possible. But again, if they start out with no interest and they're not gaining it as we go along, we might have to fall back to the 600 to 1,000 plus range. But as we proved last year, we can find a lot of good players in that range. So that's going to do it now. So when we return, we will review the depth charts that I set up. We'll talk through our playbooks that we start the year with. And we'll talk about our initial recruiting board. Maybe we'll build some of it together. Maybe I'll build it, and then we'll just review it. But we have a little bit more to work with than we did last year. We've got a very tough schedule, but I think we're going to see a lot of freshmen play a lot, and it's going to be exciting to see how they can do. Can we build on a good end of the season last year where we won 4 out of our last 5 games? Can we have a better offense? Can we start to implement this defensive scheme and see some success there? Those are the questions we have to answer this year. And can we keep building out the roster with the types of players we need to help us along our journey on the road to glory, where eventually we will be victorious? Go Cajuns. Go Cajuns. We're in season 1. We're building this team. We're building our strategy for the year. We have a plan. We have a team. We have a nice coaching staff. We have some potential. Now we just have to turn that into reality. I can't wait to dig into it. Can't wait to start battling with some of these in-state rivals. I can't wait to send a wake-up call to the rest of the Sun Belt that the Ragin Cajuns are no longer a doormat for you to walk over. You got to put some respect on our name. And we're going to start instilling that fear in our opponents this season. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. We'll see you back here for the next episode. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.